Now 7 o'clock, we can officially call the Board of Selectmen meeting for February 12th to order. All rise, please, as we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to thank you all for being with us this evening. We'll start tonight with public hearing. Our first item is to receive public comments regarding the proposed renaming of the Simsbury Farms main building as the Thomas S. West Recreation Center pursuant to the Town of Simsbury Board of Selectmen naming rights policy. We did publish notice of the public hearing. The recommendation comes from the Culture, Parks, and Rec Commission, unanimously voted and brought before the Board of Selectmen this evening. Is there anyone who'd like to address the Board of Selectmen? Yes.
For the record, I am Wayne Westbrook.
Spelled like the town, 14 Westridge Drive, Simsbury. I'd like you to know, at the outset, I'm very proud to stand here in support of this proposal. This is the Simsbury Farms Recreation Complex Master Plan Development Program for November 1999, prepared by Kesley and Boos, B-O-O-S Associates, architecture, landscape architecture, planning and engineering firm. A firm that was interviewed by Tom West, hired by Tom West, and supervised daily by Tom West. In fact, Tom West wrote most of this report, including the executive summary. I'm going to read you part of that. In the spring of 1998, the town authorized funding for a comprehensive study of Simsbury Farms Recreation Complex, which would develop a capital improvement plan to guide renovations, expansions, and new construction of the complex towards meeting the recreation needs of the town for the next 25 years. The study is intended to serve the town as an ongoing capital planning tool for developing preferred capital projects which will be brought before town meetings. This is a minutely detailed and a comprehensive analysis of existing conditions at that time. Code violations, safety issues, plant deficiencies and inadequacies, access issues, environmental issues, and a far-reaching set of development plans for the entire complex. Ice rink, main building and pool area, golf facility and operations, maintenance facilities, family play and picnic areas. This is a separate report on the main building, as it was then, entitled Simsbury Farms Main Building, Nearly 40 Years in Showing It. If you'd ever been in that building, particularly in the cellar, the second floor down, you would have realized how seedy and decrepit it was. It reminded me of a gas station somewhere up near the Canadian border. It just smelled even. This is the proposal for implementation of a master plan for the Simsbury Farms golf course. It's a phasing plan for greens, tees, bunkers, drainage, shade, air circulation, traffic circulation, safety concerns. You know, Tom West, as chair of Park and Rec, had an unusual combination of assets. He had a degree in mechanical engineering from the University of Notre Dame and a lengthy career at Hamilton Standard. He had the engineer's perspective on what was workable and practical, and a businessman's knowledge of what was affordable. In other words, he kept a close eye on costs for the town. The town didn't operate any backhoes or construction equipment, but when technical problems arose during construction, he solved them. For example, he reconfigured the kitchen area in the new restaurant, namely the location of the cooking stoves. Then he climbed up into the space of the ceiling and installed the ventilation systems himself. The former tax collector for the town, Kathy Hayes, tells the story about how she would see Tom pass by her office every morning, right down this corridor. For a long time, and it was on his way to see Jerry Toner. For a long time, she thought he was a full-time employee of the town. Well, that's who Tom West was, a full-time employee of the town. No paycheck, no pension. You know, I'm confident you'll do the right thing here tonight and honor this dedicated town servant.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Yes.
Good evening. Thank you so much for letting me speak here. My name is John Hampton, 33 Canal Street, Weatog. I'm Simsbury State Representative and a former member of this board and liaison to the Simsbury Farms Complex Committee for 9 years. Tonight we celebrate the cornerstone of Simsbury, which is volunteerism. Simsbury is known, of course, for its natural resources, its historic and cultural resources. But as we all know, our town's most precious resource is its people and its generosity of their spirit. For generations, Simsbury residents have stepped up to make their community an incredible place to work, live, and play. Simsbury volunteers have chaired or served on commissions, committees, or task force. They've built bridges, libraries, parks, and even a performing arts center. They've toiled in near, and I can't say this word, anonymity, to improve the quality of life for their fellow citizens. However, I appear before you to speak in tribute and memory of one volunteer in particular, a giant among Simsbury volunteers, an ordinary man with extraordinary gifts, the late, great Tom West. First, I wanted to recognize his lovely bride who was here this evening. Tom loved you first, then Notre Dame, then Simsbury Farms, in that order. But I stand here in full support of the designation of the Simsbury Farms main building as the Thomas West Recreation Center. When I was first elected to this board, I, like many freshmen, had slim pickings of committee assignments. I was exiled to what was called the Simsbury Farms Complex Committee. I was not an athlete. I was not a hockey player or golfer. And I said, what the hell am I doing at this committee? I was crestfallen till I walked in the room and my spirits were quickly buoyed and I found myself extremely heartened and welcomed by its chairman, Tom West. He immediately welcomed me with a warm smile and immediately folded me into the workings of the subcommittee, validating the importance of my presence and assuring me that I could bring something to this group. I stayed for 9 years. Became my favorite liaison assignment, and many of the members have become friends. Mr. West brought his incredible business acumen and engineering talents to his service, leading the Simsbury Farms Complex Committee. He was detail-oriented, thoughtful, and well-prepared. And yes, he loved his charts, his colored charts. He also brought his gentleness and kindness to every initiative, conversation, or debate. He created amongst the subcommittee a spirit of camaraderie and bipartisanship, indeed, nonpartisanship. Tom made sure that everyone's voice was heard. He would, at the end of every discussion, painstakingly go around the circle and ask each committee member individually to make sure if they were okay with a particular agenda item. Jerry, are you okay? What do you think of that? Dave, what do you think? Are you all right with this? He wanted to make sure that everyone around the table had pride of ownership in the work before them. He so loved the town and he loved Simsbury Farms, he believed it had a bright future. And as Wayne mentioned, he wrote a strategic, brilliant master plan for its fulfillment. It was a tactical roadmap that encompassed improvements to the golf building, the hockey rink, the maintenance building, the access road, all now completely successfully and brilliantly implemented. Ultimately, the final masterpiece, the main pool building, which Tom never saw. But I know that he's proud, and somewhere he smiles every time a child dives into that pool for the first time, and he hears the peals of laughter. Under his amazing, loving, and caring stewardship, the Simsbury Farms Complex Committee has blossomed, making it the jeweled centerpiece of our community, a treasured asset for residents and favorite destination for many visitors. Tom West's contribution to this town, and especially to Simsbury Farms, as wonderfully laid out in Mr. Westbrook and Mr. Urban's application, more than merits that the main building be named in his honor. As I understand it, there appears to be an inclination to amend the policy that was just adopted in August. From my experience on this board, I know that any policy needs more than a few months to see how it works. Of course, this decision falls squarely on your purview. However, I believe it's unfair to change the rules in the middle of the game. This application was filed in good faith under the current policy as it exists, and in fairness should be evaluated in that context. In closing, Tom West was all about changing things for the better, changing things for the good. I'm reminded of the words from a song from the musical Wicked. Like a comet pulled from orbit as it passes the sun, like a stream that meets a boulder halfway through the wood, like a ship blown from its mooring by a wind off the sea, like a seed dropped by a bird in the wood. Who can say I've been changed for the better? I do believe I've been changed for the better, because I knew you, because I knew you, because I knew you, I've been changed for the good. Because Simsbury knew Tom West, Simsbury has been forever changed for the better, for the good. We're all better because of Tom. We're all blessed by his many gifts, which he so richly shared with all of us. For that reason, I ask you to approve the application before you, renaming the Simsbury Farms main building the Thomas S. West Recreation Center. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Ron Urban, 480 Firetown Road.
Simsbury.
History tells us we don't learn anything from history. But actually, I'd like to give you a little bit history for the complex. In about 1972, the first selectman went to the town and he says, we're going to build something on Orkle Farms. It's going to be a golf course, a swimming pool, and whatever's there now. And he says, if we don't do that, we're going to have to buy 4 more fire trucks, 2 more cop cars, 8 more cops, maybe a school, all kinds of people got to be hired to teach. And it's probably going to be cheaper if we raise taxes a little bit and buy Orkle Farms and not build 600 homes on it or more. So, as generally happens, the town didn't appropriate enough money for it, and a lot of things there were built not out of bricks, but out of sticks, you know, like the 3 little pig things. And 20 years later, it had to be fixed. So everything got fixed, and it's now more worthy of what it once was. And Oracle Farms, that territory is just a gem for the people of Simsbury.
Thank you.
One more thing. Tom wanted to rebuild every one of those things because, like I said, the money that was appropriated were kind of cheap buildings, you know, not as good. So he wanted to do it, and he was very good at doing things, restoring things. So what you could say, he's just restored better than what it was. Thank you.
Thank you. Others on the public hearing? Yes.
Joan Coe, 26 Whitcomb Drive. I'm concerned that the process used for naming rights for individuals has become a political process, a lobbying groups, instead of a person with credentials of long-standing significance. There should also be a policy in place to remove signage that has run its course. We already have in place the Hometown Hero Award for residents who have shown exemplary service to the town. This, too, has become not only for merit, but political expediency. A large lobbying group has the ability to bully the Board of Selectmen into voting for their applicant in order not to offend the person is approved. Using the naming policy to place a name on a town building or road should be applied to someone who has exemplified exceptional service to the town that will continue to be long-standing. There is a sign on Iron Horse Boulevard stating Helen's Way. When was this sign? Who approved this sign? Who approved Dave Holden's field? Why should Jim Gallagher receive his name on a sign for attending meetings over a long period of time? I started the Simsbury Farms paddle team over 35 years ago, and am still a member of the team. Should I have a Joan Coe gold-plated sign on the paddle courts? Tom West was a member of the golf lobby for the Simsbury Farms Golf Course, which made costly renovations at taxpayers' expense. According to a letter to the editor, Tom West has already had a bench named after him, and he was selected as a hometown hero. Should the town place his name on the alcohol road that allows golfers to exit Simsbury Farms after imbibing at the golf course that he was instrumental in creating? He has already received enough acknowledgments of his accomplishments. When is enough enough? Perhaps the town should approve a sign, First Selectman Mary Glassman, over the marijuana building on 100 Gristmill Road, since under her administration the character of Simsbury was changed forever. Before this board votes to permanently place Tom West's name at Simsbury Farms, there should be a moratorium on all naming rights until the process is reviewed and implemented with the highest standards for receiving this award. Changing a name on a building or sign is a costly event. The taxpayer should not pay for this expenditure. I urge this board to deny the application to have Tom West's name placed on a building at Simsbury Farms until the naming policy is fully vetted. And all of my comments will be on www.simsbury.com and Simsbury Patch. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Other comments on just the public hearing? Yes.
Robert Kalishman, Simsbury. Is that directed towards me, Madam?
Nope,
First
I
Selectman?
said it before, that this is, you were not here earlier, sir. No.
Towards me.
Nope, I said it earlier.
I'm Robert Kalishman, and I'd like to share this with you. I'm not a native. I wasn't born here. I was born in Connecticut. I'm a native of Connecticut. And I don't think that's important. But there are a lot of people that do. And there's a lot of people that use it. And I feel it's wrong. I feel that I qualify for everything. I've paid my dues. I've done everything that the country asks of anybody. The only thing I haven't done is what Sergeant Felix Del Greco has done, is made the supreme sacrifice. For those in the room, supreme sacrifice of a military man, that's a man that goes out and is killed doing the duty of his country. And I came here many a time, and I lobbied for Sergeant Del Greco, named when it first started for the Vanity Road, that where all the bricks are and all the placards are of all the big guns or fat cats that put up these big plaques. And I asked for that for Felix de Greco. And I was assured by one of the first selectmen, oh, we'll do it. Was never done. And then the second attempt was with the present first selectwoman. And I asked about that. And I was told the family doesn't want it. And I said, well, the family doesn't want it. And then a year or two later, I picked up the blue book, and there's Sergeant Felix Del Greco's picture in the place of honor from the state of Connecticut. There's his picture, killed in action in Iraq. Okay? And I went to the first selectman and I asked again. We should have something for Felix de Greco. I was told the family doesn't want it. Finally, unbeknownst to me, there's a road opposite the high school that runs off of West Street. It's called Felix de Greco Road. I've never seen it, and I don't think I can find it if I had to. But getting back to this, and let me jump to another, so you don't say, oh, you're trying to figure me out, because let me jump to George Hall. George Hall, a farmer, owns property. We just conveyed some farm property to a relative of his. George Hall was killed in World War I from Simsbury. In the luck of the draw, he was killed like 4 or 5 days before Armistice Day, November 11th, 1918. And he's down. And he's down. And what do we have for George Hall? You got a $200 monument, a gravestone, with George Hall's name on it. These are the fellows you should be honoring, the men that went out and gave their lives. Now, you know, like I said, I'm not a native, but when I came to town, I was invited to an affair, and I went out to the farms, and it was put together very, very nicely, and it was run by the Simsbury Police Department, and they ran it extremely well. And my wife and I attended. We sat down. We met a lot of fine people. And I met one lady, a lovely lady, and she said to me very proudly, she said, "Are you aware that my husband made this place?" And I said, "No, I'm not aware." I said, "Tell me who your husband is." She says, "My husband is Russell Shaw." And she went on to explain to me that Russell Shaw put that farm up there, put it together. I don't see, we're not here tonight for Russell Shaw. 2 weeks ago, another fine gentleman, Mr. Gallagher from the zoning board, and when I asked why he's being named a street, they said he served on the zoning board. And because he served on the zoning board with another colleague, and the colleague who's very political nominated him, we have a street for Mr. Gallagher. Why was that there? Political. 100% politics. And this appointment this evening is 100% politics. And the reason, in my opinion, it's 100% politics, you have a group here, the golf lobby, which have been spending money after money after money. And you want to know why your taxes are so high? Look at that budget for the farms. And look at it again this year when they've added the performing arts to it. It's going to go through the floor. And it's not right to, you want to, I'm for country clubs. You want to go to country club? You want to play golf? Hot Meadow. I understand they're in trouble over here. Hot Meadow. You want to play country, right? Go to Hot Meadow if you want the country club. But if you want the taxpayers to pay for it, go to play golf in Hartford, either at Keeney or Goodwin. And you'll see the conditions of those courts compared to Tumblebrook, Hartford, Wampanoag. And we used to have Cliffside out here. Why did Cliffside go broke and go out of business? And there's a 2 or 3 others around that are up going out of business. And that's all you're doing by voting this, is you're going to add tax on tax on tax. And you're not being fair to the citizens of Simsbury, in my opinion.
Thank you.
I'm not finished.
Oh, okay, you could summarize.
Now, I used to walk with my dog. My wife and I, every day, 3-4 times a day, we walked down Iron Horse Boulevard. And when I first started to walk, my eye caught these benches. And I looked at them and I saw the Scout logo, be prepared or whatever, and I saw it there. And then I saw an individual's name. I recognized Boy Scouts of America, but I couldn't recognize the name. These fellas spent time. They left their families to go out and sleep in the woods with these youngsters. They went with them to teach them the code, the Boy Scout code, honesty, be prepared. They spent time with them probably once every week. They went to the troop meeting. And if they had one that was out of sync, they probably went and visited his home and talked to his parents and made him the best scout of the troop. So you have all that down there. And that wasn't done politically. The Boy Scouts get out just like they come. They go out, they ask permission. They were given permission by the Board of Selectmen. We have one that works for his Eagle Scout. To get your Eagle Scout, to get your badge, your Eagle medal, Eagle Scout medal, you have to do we have one fella that made a park. We had another one that did work down there. Mary can go through a litany of Boy Scouts that have come here, given their time and their money for these projects. They're not asking that you put up a bench for them. And the point I'm trying to make here, by saying political, you're down here and you're embarrassing each and every one of these selectmen. You're embarrassing Mr. Askham, Miss Cook, Miss Hassey, the first selectman, Miss Glassman, Selectman Hebner, and our last but not least, Mr. Payne, our selectman. Incidentally, the top vote getter. The top vote getter. We should go out and name, he's the top vote getter in town. Let's name something after him.
If you could summarize, Mr. Kelishman, I've
No,
given you more than 5 minutes.
I-
I've given you more than 5
Well,
minutes. So I would ask you
Is
to be
there a time
respectful.
limit?
There are other people who would like to speak.
Is there a time limit?
Yes, 5 minutes.
Okay.
The same as it
Well,
always
let
is.
me conclude.
Thank you.
And this is just a good example of how things are pushed through here, right? I'm not allowed to speak my mind.
I've
but what
actually
I'm
given
saying
you
to
more than 5 minutes.
Is by you being here, she's attempting to embarrass you with every one of these people. Because if you don't vote for this thing, right, each guy they'll be tagged, they'll be stamped like a bullseye on their back. They'll be stamped. They voted against naming the farms, and it's wrong. And you shouldn't put your politics in this thing.
Thank
Think
you.
about it.
Thank you. Yes, other comments? Yes, sir.
Good evening, David Bush, 4 Catherine Lane, Simsbury. I should also disclose I'm the chairman of the Park and Rec, Cultural Park and Rec Commission. We voted unanimously for this particular honor, and we don't take that lightly. We do not take that politically. Joan Coe actually used the terms exemplary service to the town. It is rare that we'd have a man like Tom West devote so much of his time and have such an identifiable result, which is the renovation and completion of numerous projects at Simsbury Farms. I'm humbled to be the chairman of Cultural Park and Rec, because for a while Tom reported to our commission when we all knew that we needed to have someone like Tom in his position because he did all the work, and that's what volunteers are about. This is not political. This is nothing more than recognizing an incredibly valuable volunteer who had a direct impact on a very small portion of our town. The gem, and in a presentation we made earlier tonight, the gem of our town. There's not a single one of us here who would say, when someone asks, what can you tell me about Simsbury, wouldn't eventually make a reference to the complex, and to the golf course, the pools, the paddle tennis courts. It benefits us all. I admire the fact that this is being moved forward. Don't ever mistake this for something other than what it is. Appropriate recognition for a longtime town volunteer. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments on the public hearing? Anyone else who would like to comment on the public hearing? One going once? Going twice? At this point, I'd ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
Move that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'd now like to move to public audience on any items. Anyone who'd like to address the board? Yes.
Joan Coe, 26 Wickham Drive. At the last Board of Selectmen meeting on January 27, this board and the public were witness to a verbal assault on Mr. Kalishman by First Selectman Mary Glassman and Selectman Lisa Heedner pertaining to his comments stating that he was told a grant was being used to support the creation of Community for Care Committee led by Pastor Woody Edens. When I received a phone call from Mr. Kalishman pertaining to this committee and how it would be financed, I told him that I would call the town and find out if there was a grant for this project. I called Tom Cook, First Selectman's high-maintenance pseudo-town manager, to receive the information. I asked and was told there was a grant for this project. He stated that there was one, but he couldn't tell me the amount of the grant because he was too busy to look up that information. I was satisfied that the town taxpayers were not paying for this redundant committee. I transmitted the information to Mr. Kalishman, who stood up at the meeting during the public audience and questioned why other people in authority did not know of this grant, although he was assured that Mr. Cook transmitted through me that a grant was received for this project. After Mr. Kalishman finished his remarks, both First Selectman Mary Glassman and Selectman Lisa Heedner publicly humiliated and bullied Mr. Kalishman, asserting he was transmitting incorrect information. Tom Cook, Mary Glassman's pseudo-town manager, was sitting silent in the front row, listening to this tirade, challenging Mr. Kalishman's veracity, and did nothing to correct the record. After this public thrashing by First Selectman Mary Glassman and Selectman Lisa Heedner, I questioned Tom Cook on his silence, knowing that the incorrect information came from him. He stated he couldn't say anything to correct the record until First Selectman Mary Glassman vetted his remarks. Tom Cook sat silent. What is going on in Town Hall? How can we, the taxpayers, trust our highly paid officials when they give us incorrect information and are unwilling to admit a mistake? In a current article, quote, "Panel to Address Mental Health Drugs," First Selectman Mary Glassman stated, "The program will have no cost to the town. There was some confusion about a grant funding the program." Mr. Kalishman deserves a public apology from First Selectman Mary Glassman and Selectman Lisa Heavner for their brutal attack on his public comments, sending a lawyerese letter, which I have over here, sending a lawyerese letter from Tom Cook to me and Mr. Kalishman, placing the blame on us for transmitting the incorrect information that he transmitted does not meet the muster. We, the people who pay the highest taxes in the valley, should expect the highest standards from our employees. Mr. Cook receives an F on all counts. Recently, there was an article in the Farmington Valley Times with the heading, quote, will Simsbury become known as Pot City? First Selectman Mary Glassman was quoted as saying that, quote, in addition to being known for its wholesome and small-town New England image, Simsbury is reputed for support of innovativeness, which was pointed out as an asset in a recent marketing study of the town. She went on to say this new medical marijuana endeavor fits the category of, quote, cutting-edge business and will facilitate, quote, innovative economic development in town. What is cutting edge? Is the process for trimming the plant to use the seeds? How can First Selectman Mary Glassman think that this facility is economic development when all the property values in town will be devalued? Who wants to send their children to a high school in close proximity to a marijuana factory? Why does First Selectman Mary Glassman continually state that the Republicans voted for the marijuana factory when the two dissenting votes came from the Republicans? Does First Selectman Mary Glassman want to be known as the Queen of Pot? What is First Selectman Mary Glassman smoking? First Selectman Mary Glassman recently introduced our new town manager, Jim Shea, with a salary of $103,500, who came from Canton. In a recent current article, it was stated that Canton was reorganizing staff and salaries, and Shea's position of projects engineer salary was being reduced from $90,203 to $70,000. Why should the taxpayers support a salary of $103,500 when we could have negotiated this salary at a lower cost, and having retired town engineer Rich Sawitsky on a part-time basis adds additional costs to this department? While reviewing the town files, I saw that Hiram Peck, Director of Community Planning and Development, submitted an invoice on September 4th, 2013 to be paid for 22 miles of travel to distribute and tear fill posters and other material pertaining to a charrette. Why is the town using Hiram Peck to distribute materials, and how could he travel 22 miles, and why is he not using town vehicle? According to town records, Dave Richmond has not paid the taxes on his property at 730 Hop Meadow Street and continues to be in violation of the zoning regulations, with fines being imposed on a daily basis. Since the Common Core initiative has been imposed on all the school systems, and there have been time to evaluate the results, the teachers and superintendents are finally speaking out on the failures. The premise that both teachers and students are common and one-size-fits-all is a fallacy. We should not have a one-size-fits-all mentality in education. Teachers are not common, nor do we want our teachers to be common in delivering information to our children. One size does not fit all. Many educators and businesses are asking the education system to generate students who think out of the box and are problem solvers, not good at filling in bubbles with a number 2 pencil. Teaching to the test is teaching to failure. Teachers should be evaluated on their ability to engage their students, not just regurgitate the Common Core curriculum. Anyone thinking that both children and teachers are common does not understand the value of individuality. We need leaders who can produce children to guide us into the future, not produce initiatives that produce robots with Common Core standards. Simsbury needs professional management to guide us into an uncertain economic climate. was we the taxpayers cannot continually pay for ineffective management and costly initiatives. And my comments will be on www.simsbury.com and Simsbury Pat for your review. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Anyone else would like to address the board? Yes. In the back, I think I already given some.
I always am, but that's fine. I can
Try to mix it up so I'm fair to everybody.
Sue Bernarzik, 119 East Wetuck Street. I'm here to talk about a land use issue, the one across the street from me. There was a historic district meeting the other night, but they didn't have a quorum, even though Howard thought there was a quorum with 3 people. There were many misstatements that Howard Beach made when talking to my neighbor, the town planner, whose background is a town planner. And there's going to be another meeting, but there are still some unresolved issues, more than just the drainage issue that happened from the Planning Commission meeting. And I always got, a little bit ragged on because I asked a lot of questions. And I'm proud to say that I did my due diligence and that this issue and the issues that all exist would not have existed if I were on the commission and if I were asking the questions. So I am going to name something after Mr. Payne. I'm going to get a big 4x8 that's still in my shed, turn it backwards, go get it printed to say, here's the arrow. This is Mike Payne's Planning Commission mistake when he was chairman. It needs to be fixed. The drainage issue needs to be fixed. There's plenty of planning problems that haven't been fixed, that haven't even been dealt with. And it's just amazing. I mean, my neighbor's like, I can't even believe, she's just like stunned when she goes in to ask questions. And so additionally, Howard Beach did say that I guess the applicant is going to put in a large home on 1 acre, all the drainage system, a septic system, a large barn, and a tennis court that goes over the setback line. But it's okay to put any kind of outbuilding outside a setback line. Really? Then why did I go through everything I did with my shed to make sure that it was within the setback lines? So we have a list. Mary, maybe I should drop it at your office of all the problems that exist and the drainage issue that was not dealt with that is still existent and needs to be dealt with. So I'm proud to say that I did my due diligence when I was on the Planning Commission, which I can't say for perhaps others. So I'm just asking that all of these issues get resolved, and Ann and I are putting together a list of all the issues because it's yet one of the things that has not been dealt with, and it needs to be dealt with from a perspective of, and I know that you said that Rich is going to deal with it, but I just want to make sure that all the issues are dealt with because I don't want to have the problems exist. And Mr. Kalishman, it doesn't matter whether you grew up here because I grew up in town, and when you don't hug a big box, you get a drainage issue like I have.
Thank you. If you could give me that list, that would be helpful. Thank you. Yes.
Robert Callison, Simsbury. This evening, I'd like to address the town, the voters, Mr. Roy.
We have a charter, and in the charter, the first thing I like to bring to your attention is section 1003, conflict of interest. And I like you, the board, to read it, and I'd like you as citizens, if you have time, to drop by and get a copy of it and read it. And then once you read it and you think you detect something that should be reported, the people you're to report this to have no knowledge of it, and they don't even want to listen. But just let me highlight it. It is hereby declared to be the policy of the town that any elected or appointed officer, any member of any board or commission, or any employee of the town who has a financial interest, direct or indirect, in any contract, transaction, or decision of any officer or agent of the town or any board of commission shall be disclosed. That interest to the Board of Selectmen, which should be recorded, such disclosures upon the selectmen. I'm not going to finish it. But each person's required to fill out a conflict of interest report. You know where the report goes? To the first selectman. She's the one that decides, right? Is it a political decision? In my opinion, it is. That's the first thing. The second thing, we have a new board of selectmen. They were elected, and I guess they had the organizational meeting in December and their first meeting in January. And this meeting, at this meeting, they decided when the meetings would be, and they line up their meetings. They're going to meet, according to the town, it's supposed to be the second and fourth Monday of every month. The second and fourth Monday of every month. It doesn't say we're not going to have a meeting if somebody has a toothache, or if this one's out of town or that one's out of town, we're not going to have a meeting. It says there'll be a meeting twice a month. Okay? And that's done, and it's agreed with all the members here. And then we go down, and I'm not going to read, this is section 402, presiding officers, organizations, and procedures. And I'm not going to read the entire section to you. I'm going to go down one paragraph. The selectmen shall elect from among their own members a deputy first selectman who shall serve as acting first selectman in accordance with the provisions of section 503. And with your permission, I like to go to 503. Okay, and that's appointments and terms. It's 503, you can read it. I suggest you should. And 3/4 of the way down the paragraph, the deputy first selectman shall serve as acting first selectman in the event the first selectman in the event of the temporary absence or temporary disability of the first selectman. But in such event, the deputy first selectman shall not exercise the appointed authority vested in the office. In other words, when the deputy selectman takes over the meeting, she can't make appointments to boards and commissions. That's all that means. Of the first selectman by this chapter. And now let me continue. In the event the first selectman is unable to serve for reasons of medical disability, as determined by the remaining members of the Board of Selectmen, the remaining members shall appoint from among their own members an acting first selectman. And what that tells me is that the people that wrote this charter have said that when something has to be decided on this board, when the first selectman isn't around, it's to be decided among the members of the Board of Selectmen. Not by one person, not by the first selectwoman, not by the party. It's to be decided by the people that were elected by the people. And when I elect somebody, I elect them, I expect them to do their duty. And when they go off, I think it's only right that the first selectwoman takes over the duty. We elected them to do that. How were they elected? They were appointed by their peers. That's how it was done. And that's how it should be. And it's not being adhered to. And the second thing, I sat in the meeting, and it seems that there's some vindictiveness here. I detected it with myself, but I also detect it with other people, because I'm a very sensitive guy, even though you may not think so. And when they insulted the deputy select woman by appointing Miss Hefner to run the meeting, while Miss Glassman reclused herself on a subject that was affecting the Hartford fire, that The person that should have handled that was the deputy first selectwoman. That's the point. And that's how, and if we're gonna run an administration and everybody's talking like the gentleman from the farms, the chairman, that it's not political. Oh, we're not political. But yet I see this going on. It hurts me. Why does it hurt me? Because I want the best town. I want a good administration. And we're not getting it. Believe me, we're not getting it. And it's sad.
You could summarize, Mr. Kelchman, that was 5 minutes.
I'm summarizing.
Thank you.
I think that the deputy first selectwoman should do her duties, and this foolishness that's going on should stop.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Anyone else who'd like to address the board at this time? Yes.
It's also sort of a question, because we had mentioned the resolution at the last meeting, and I believe everybody has it, so I don't know if I need to talk about that or submit that again to you.
We actually thank you for that. We have it
Okay.
on our agenda on item number C.
Okay.
So we can ask questions at that time if you'd like.
I just wasn't sure. Okay.
Thank you, Wendy. Any other comments? Yes.
Can I just say something about the Simsbury Farms?
Yes, please.
Thank you very much. Father Michael White from St. Catherine's in West Simsbury. And I just wanted to say that I'm a neophyte and new to the town, but I have to admit that I realize that there's a lot of wonderful people in the town of Simsbury who do a lot for this community. You know, in the 7 years that I've been here, I'm just amazed at how people come out and really offer their time and their talent and their treasury to do a lot of different things in this community. And I'm sure because of that, there's a ton of wonderful people that should be acknowledged and noted as being wonderful patriots in town and people involved in town. But this past weekend, after the Sunday Mass, I guess I was really ignorant because after Mass and I was shaking people's hands on the way out, I would say 20, 25 people stopped me and asked me if I knew what was happening with the Simsbury Farms and the naming of Tom West. And I said, really, I didn't. I had no idea. I didn't really see the newspapers or anything like that. So I'm not here to say anything about politics or anything like that. I'm just here to say that Tom West was a gentleman that I got to meet over 7 years at St. Catherine's. And that man would do anything for our parish, for our community, and for our town. And I just think that as he's probably looking down up there, down upon us from up there, he's probably thinking he wouldn't want all of this distraction going on here. And I realize that there are a number of wonderful people to be acknowledged and honored with a great title. But for a man who did so much to build that community up at Simsbury Farms and to make it what it is today, and it truly is a jewel in the crown of the town of Simsbury when you think about that wonderful complex they have up there. But that, it would be wonderful to recognize him that way. And I was just shocked at the number of people, and these weren't his companions who golfed with him up there or golfed with him up there. There were a lot of young families who utilized that facility, and they just thought it was very sad that it had turned into whatever it had turned into. So I just offer that as an opinion from a newcomer to town and not knowing the game here with all the different players and everybody who's done so much for this community. Just I think he does stand out as an exceptional human being and a resident of this town. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. With that, I want to thank everybody who spoke this evening. We appreciate your feedback, and we'll move directly into the agenda items. First item is an update on our suicide prevention training. I want to announce that on Wednesday, March 12th, the town of Simsbury will host a question, persuade, and refer community training session at 7 o'clock in the youth room at Eno Hall. Tom Steen, the executive director of the Capital Area Substance Abuse Council, will lead a 45-minute session. It is intended to raise awareness of the role we can all play in preventing suicide. We are gatekeepers of people who have contact with someone who is at risk for suicide, whether it's a family member, a neighbor, a friend, or anyone else in our community. This training session will teach us how to be aware of folks in need in our community, and will help us reach out to be better neighbors, better friends, better family members, and make our community a better place. The suicide training is funded through a grant. That comes from the Capital Area Substance Abuse Council, and I'm sorry if there was some confusion earlier. I did not speak to anyone about this grant, but if I had an opportunity, I wanted to clarify. The town received the grant with the guidance and leadership of Pastor Woody Eddins and with assistance from Lisa Hevner. We did set out to start a Community for Care committee. The Community for Care committee will be a volunteer group that will help us implement some of our suicide training, prevention training. So I want to thank all those folks who volunteered. The outpouring of volunteers in our community has been wonderful, who want to assist us in this program. But again, the program will go forward. The committee's not yet established, but hopefully once the committee is established, they could help publicize and work on examples such as this training session in our community. So again, that date is March 12th. It'll be a 45-minute training session at Eno Hall, and we'll be getting that information out to the public. We also at this time are headed to another storm. While we have been fortunate this year to not have a lot of, I won't say it. I won't say it, but we've been fortunate in that we're making it close to the end of our winter season, hopefully. As you'll hear from our Public Works Director, the storms this year have not been cooperative with our budget. And actually, the state of Connecticut is running out of salt through the good work of Tom Roy and our staff and our regional collaborations. We are in good shape. So I asked Tom to come tonight, update the board and the public on where we stand in terms of tomorrow's storm and where we stand in terms of our winter budget. So Tom, welcome.
Could be a storm tomorrow?
Always the last to know.
Actually, what I want to know, did you bring dinner?
You know, I have to admit, I stole my wife's Tupperware, so I might be in trouble. And I never, at any of the budget meetings, bring cookies or snacks or pens or anything. So tonight we have salt.
I asked him to bring some samples.
really
Please do
disappointed.
not.
No popcorn?
Please do not eat the samples. These are chemicals that are.
Because we'll need it tomorrow.
It probably
These are going out in the parking lot. We'll be pocketing small amounts.
Before we get into the numbers, what's interesting there is you actually have two different products that we're using this year. When we switched over to treated salt 5 years ago, we were using the product in Lisa's right hand, the green, which is Cargill Clear Lane. It's basically your traditional white rock salt treated with magnesium chloride. The brown salt is actually salt treated with a sugar, basically a molasses, and if you smell it, it has a very strong sweet smell to it. Just
Do not eat it.
so it's sugar and salt on the roads tomorrow, and hopefully everything will go well. The reason that we went to the brown salt this year is that early on in January, we saw that our primary supplier, the one that we've been using for the past 5 years, was not able to meet our delivery requirements. You know, we would order 100 tons of salt. We were expecting to get it within 2 or 3 days, and a week would go by and they were not able to fulfill our delivery. Due to the shortage for a number of factors across the nation, the Arctic vortex, problems with trains, the fact that you have ice storms down south, there's been both a big demand for salt and difficulties moving it. There's actually trouble with the rail system in the Midwest due to the cold. They weren't able to get the salt from the mines to this region. We immediately, through our CROG contract, went to our second low bidder, who is the one supplying the brown salt. And by using both of these suppliers, we've been able to meet our needs. We currently have enough salt in our salt shed for both the storm tomorrow and one more storm. We always like to be at least one storm ahead. We're pessimistic people. We always want to be prepared. So the good thing is that we are prepared in terms of we have enough salt on hand for the foreseeable future. We have resources that look like that they're keeping pace with the number of storms we have. We're being told that the salt shortage is a short-term problem related primarily to transportation and demand issues, and we're expecting that within the next 2 to 3 weeks that demand issue should go away. So short problem, but hopefully we're in very good shape. I think we're doing better than a lot of the other communities in the area. In terms of salt expenditures to date, we've basically exhausted all of our budget, and with the salt that we've ordered over the past week, we've exceeded our budget. Big reason for that is that in December and January, we had a number of very small storms. We had ice storms. The way we typically treat a winter storm like we will tomorrow, very early in the storm or before the storm, we'll go down and we'll put down an application of salt. Round numbers, that's about $4,000, $5,000 worth of material that we put down on the roadways. As long as it keeps snowing, that salt will melt and it forms a salty layer which keeps the snow from sticking to the road. As the snow builds up, the plows go by, they plow it off, and we keep going throughout the storm without adding any more salt. The salt is traditionally only at the beginning of the storm. At the end of the storm, as they make their final pass, they put down one more layer of salt to make sure that you won't have any of the refreeze associated with the melting snowbanks over the next day and evening. The problem we had this year is we had a lot of ice storms. We'll have weather where it's 33 degrees and raining, the wind blows, the temperature drops, and it's 32 and you have a sheet of ice. We go out, we spend that $4,000, $5,000 on salt, everything's fine. 10 minutes later, the temperature goes back up to 33 degrees. The rain washes all of that salt down the drain. Temperature changes back, and we end up putting down more salt. For a small freezing rain event, we can spend far more than we did on the blizzard last year in terms of salt. So that's how we've gotten to where we are right now. In the memo I wrote, I said in the foreseeable remainder of this winter, and groundhog didn't cooperate. I was praying. It could be, worst case scenario, $75,000 additional beyond our budget in terms of salt. That's a conservative number. I think we're going to be under that. My recommendation, and I spoke a little bit with Mary about this earlier, is that we continue to use other line items to supplement the current purchases of salt until we get through the winter season. At that point, I think we could talk about what is the best funding mechanism, whether we transfer from reserves, whether we try to see if we can find it in other accounts. I think it'll give us a much better picture at that point of where we're at, as opposed to trying to hit kind of a moving target right now. The second issue is our overtime budget. When I wrote the memo last week, we had about $30,000 left in overtime. That's not going to last us through the winter at the current pace. We have scheduled overtime, which is required through our union contract for on-call crew leaders, and then we have a storm like tomorrow, which could range, depending upon the duration of the storm, $18,000, give or take. The problem with a storm like tomorrow is that it's going to be a 24-hour duration of just snowfall, and then after that, we still have another 4 to 6 hours of cleanup work associated with that. So even though it's during the week and it crosses over 2 8-hour work periods, the overtime could be substantial.
Thanks, Tom, and thanks for your guidance on getting the salt. I know a lot of communities have run short, and your ability to recognize the problem early on and work with the region and work with our vendors to secure that we have the right amount of salt was very helpful, and appreciate your being here tonight to let the board know. We will notify the Board of Finance and make them aware of their meeting on Tuesday as well. So we do budget for 5-year averages, and this unfortunately is not quite what we had anticipated this winter. So we'll be monitoring the costs closely and bringing it back to the board. Questions for Tom?
You touched on mine a little bit, is we should probably consider this in the budget process that we got coming
Yes.
up, is do we need to adjust those averages? Because I remember we actually did talk about this topic. I think the budget that came to us, you asked for 292, I think, in that line item, and it came to us at 200, and we put 40 back.
Right.
On the final appropriation, but clearly that's not going to cut it this year, so.
It's important that 292 line item it's not just treated road salt, it's other road products, which
Right.
concrete products for catch basin repairs and drainage.
Mm-hmm.
But about 220, I think, is the number that we were originally requesting for salt for.
And don't worry, Mr. Roy's already asked for an increase in his
Oh, I'm
budget.
sure, I'm sure.
Don't you worry.
I'm sure.
5-year average went up.
Other questions, comments? Thanks, Tom, and
Okay.
good luck tomorrow. In a few hours, we'll be closely
Yeah, go get some sleep.
monitoring the project.
Get your Tupperware home.
Leave that on the stairs outside, though.
The next item, I just wanted to update the Board of Selectmen. As the board knows, the town was one of 4 medical marijuana facilities selected in the state. There were 16 applications. There were 4. If the Board of Selectmen doesn't remember voting on this, it's because you didn't. The Board of Selectmen has no role or no authority in the approval of this facility. I think there was some confusion, so I wanted to clarify that the process that the town went through. If you recall, the state of Connecticut legalized the medical marijuana legislation in October of 2012. Shortly after that law was passed, town staff was directed to prepare a memo for a zoning commission to consider drafting a regulation. Hiram did prepare a memo. One of the items that the zoning commission was asked to consider was a moratorium. There were a number of towns that at that point were looking at moratoriums. Some towns, including West Hartford, did put a moratorium in place. The zoning commission chose not to adopt a moratorium. The zoning commission, which under our form of government has the authority to enact ordinances, they chose to adopt a regulation. There was a public hearing. They asked staff to prepare a public hearing and a regulation. A public hearing was set. The Economic Development Commission also considered the regulation at their October 2012 meeting. The Zoning Commission did have the public hearing. There were no public comments. There was further discussion and further public notice put in place. The town then received last year, a year after the regulation was adopted, the application by Curaleaf from the Chief Medical Officer, and Chief Operating Officer in the fall of 2013. The Zoning Commission considered that regulation on October 21st, 2013. There was no additional public comment at that time. The commission took no other action. They put notices in place. And then in November of 2013, Curaleaf made the application officially to the Zoning Commission. There was a public hearing. There was only one person who spoke at the public hearing, and that was with regard to traffic circulation. There were no members of the comment, no public comment, and no further comments on that application. The Zoning Commission finally adopted took a vote on the site plan and special exception on the regulation, which stated that the facility could only be in a commercial or industrial area, could not be in a residential area. That vote was taken on December 16th, 2013. After that approval, the application went forward to the state of Connecticut. The state of Connecticut reviewed the 16 applications that were received statewide, and Curaleaf was, in Simsbury, was awarded one of the 4 licenses for production facilities in Connecticut. I just wanted to let you know that the town did ask the police chief to comment. I did direct the police chief to provide input, and he had done that to the staff. The chief feels that the security that is required in the facility is adequate, and we will continue to monitor the facility. And we will continue to report on the progress. Under the state law, the production facility does need to be operating within 6 months, so the improvements, about $2 million of improvements to the building will need to be made and will be made before the facility is up and running. The Zoning Commission was also asked to consider applications or what the regulation would be on dispensary facilities. So it's important to note that there's a distinction in the law between production facilities and dispensary facilities. The production facilities are very heavily regulated and have a lot of security and allow no customer interaction. The dispensary facility it's basically the sale of the medical marijuana. The Zoning Commission did not place a moratorium on the dispensaries as well either, so that we currently have no dispensary applications before the town. But I did want to make sure that the public knew the difference between the production facility and the dispensary facilities. Any questions? Okay. Just wanted to take a moment and update the board. I know board is aware of it. And
I have one question.
Yes, Lisa.
For dispensaries, is it going to be like, because it's medical marijuana, will it be required to be dispensed through a pharmacy?
It'll be required to be dispensed through a dispensary. So the state of Connecticut right now is reviewing applications, just like they did the production facilities, for separate dispensaries. So there's a very heavily state regulations that are required for dispensaries. The town, we have no applications for those before us, so that's not.
So it doesn't have to be at a pharmacy?
It does not, no.
So are there any regulations in place that it should be a certain distance from churches and schools?
The Zoning Commission did put in regulations for the production facilities and the dispensary facilities.
In terms of location?
Yes. Other questions? Okay. Thank you. I thought I'd just update the board and the public on that as well. We'll move along to our agenda item. First Selectman report, just had a couple of quick reports. The first is good news. We've received information from our assessor that Simsbury's grand list for 2013 is expected to grow almost 0.6%. Wouldn't you love 6%? 0.59 over 2012. That means that the value of our property in town went from a value of $2.24 billion to $2.25 billion. The increase amounts to more than $13.4 million increases in real estate, property, motor vehicle values. And just wanted to thank our staff. There's a number of wonderful economic development projects which we've been working on, which have finally come online. Those include the Mill Commons Apartments, the Kings Ridge Apartments, the homes on Croft Lane, and new construction at Powder Forest. After years of decline in our net taxable personal property, we have increases in our personal property, particularly those owned by the public utility companies. There are additional projects in the pipeline that will have a positive effect on our future grand lists, including the homes at Mill Pond Crossing, Simsbury Specialty Housing, and the completion of CL&P's substation in the north part of town, which will not only bring tax dollars, but will bring electric reliability, so it's really a win-win. The projects that have gained some popularity include Carson Way, East Point Apartments, and the Big Y, which are not included in the grand list, so that's more good news to come. So while we're continue to look for other economic growth and work on the Hartford with our partners with the Hartford, we have tremendous economic development opportunities and tremendous increase in our grand list. So that's good news for our town. I also wanted to publicly announce that I will be recommending to this board and to the Board of Finance the appointment of Joe Mancini as the town's of Simsbury's Director of Finance and Treasurer. Joe currently serves as the Director of Finance for the City of West Haven and has held that position for 3 years. During that time, he implemented new purchase orders, tax software, human resources software systems that have streamlined the city's operations. He also took steps to streamline the city's capital and operating budget processes and to work in consolidating a lot of the Board of Ed, Board of Town facilities. He was the first choice of our interview panel, consisting of representatives from the Board of Selectmen. And I want to thank Sean Askham and Lisa Hevner for giving us your time and sitting through that panel discussions, the Board of Finance, and the current Finance Department, and our friends in other towns as well. Prior to his service in the city of West Haven, Joe also worked for Sikorsky Aircraft and a variety of finance positions, including the position of finance manager for the company's Canada programs. Under the charter, Joe's appointment is subject to approval by both the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance. Because we had just concluded negotiations with Mr. Mancini, it was not ready for tonight's appointment, but it will be ready in time for him to start in March. So we want to thank everybody for their input. We had a lot of wonderful candidates. We're thrilled that we got our first choice of our candidate, and just want to thank everybody for participating in that process. Finally, just wanted to invite the public to Gateway Planning's session on February 18th at 6 p.m. in the large program room of the Simsbury Library to present the latest draft of the code for the Hartford property. We encourage everyone to attend, participate, ask questions, and hear more about exciting opportunities for the Hartford. After the meeting, Gateway Planning will prepare the final draft and will begin the regulation adoption process. I want to thank everybody who's participated and encourage everyone to attend the February 18th meeting. A lot of exciting ideas in place. And now we'll move right to action items. Our first item is the grand list update. There's no action required. The board will see those numbers reflected in the budget process as we move forward. So there's no action needed on that. Our first item tonight is to approve the renaming of the Simsbury Farms main building to the Thomas S. West Recreation Center. In the submission from the Culture, Parks, and Rec Commission, they stated that Tom West was chairman of the Simsbury Farms Complex Committee from 1998 until he passed suddenly in 2011. During that time, Tom was instrumental in overseeing the implementation of the Simsbury Farms Master Plan, which included the construction of the new ice rink in 1999, the golf clubhouse in 2003, the parks and golf maintenance facility 2011, and the renovation of the main building in 2012. In recognition of his contributions in leadership, Wayne Westbrook and Ron Urban submitted a proposal under the new Town of Simsbury naming rights policy. The proposal was adopted earlier last August. The proposal was first reviewed by the Simsbury Farms Complex Committee and forwarded to the Culture, Parks, and Rec Commission. At their regular meeting on December 5th, the commission considered the application and unanimously endorsed the renaming of the main building in Tom's honor. It was then forwarded to the Board of Selectmen for approval. We had set a public hearing for this evening for public comment. We received that comment. I want to thank everyone who spoke on the proposal. Just to get the discussion started, I did want to thank Father White for his comments. There are indeed a number of wonderful people in our community who have given so much, and it's wonderful to have that. It makes our town great. And you're right, Father White, Tom would not want to be hearing this discussion right now. He was a master at making good ideas seem like they were your ideas and not his ideas, when we all knew they were really his ideas. And I just would say, personally, having worked with Tom, I think government's often criticized for not looking long-term at communities, not looking long-term, only being concerned about what happened in our terms. And Tom turned us into a community that looks long-term. And what he proposed was a long-range professional plan for Simsbury Farms, not just getting through the next budget cycle. And we indeed are a better community because of his being here. So I'm honored to support the proposal before us this evening. I'll open up to other discussion, other comments. Anyone?
I'll make a motion.
Lisa?
Make a motion that we accept the Culture, Parks, and Recreation Commission's recommendation to rename the main building at Simsbury Farms Complex the Thomas S. West Recreation Center. And I just want to point out that it's not renaming Simsbury Farms. It's still Simsbury Farms.
Still Simsbury Farms. Thanks for the clarification. Do we have a second? I will second that.
Okay.
Other discussion? Anyone? Mike?
I'm really having a problem with this, and my problem is absolutely not the individual that we're being asked to name this. It's really more the process. It is presented to us, and you hear the accolades, and frankly, until tonight, I had not heard anyone else speak in favor of this, and I'll be very honest in questioning some people. But the flip side is, and he obviously did a really great thing for the town. He accented a facility that was politely put tired and needed to be upscaled. I'm having a tough time with this, and I'll be very honest. I want to look at the policy, but unfortunately, we've already got a proposal before us to penalize somebody, if you will, for coming in with a request and then, for the sake of discussion, changing the rules. I don't think is appropriate. But nonetheless, I am having a tough time with this, and I'll just leave it there.
I just have a quick comment, and I think I said enough at our last meeting, and I think you know where I am on this, but I think since our last meeting, I've had a chance to talk to a bunch of people, and I've tried to go around and talk to as many people as I can about this, because I want to know what people think. And like Mike, until tonight, nobody that I spoke to was in favor of this, and it had nothing to do with Mr. West. It was all about honoring our volunteers, in an appropriate manner, through the Hometown Hero program, and through, our plaques and benches and all the other ways we recognize all the people who do so many wonderful things for our town. And I think that, as so many of our speakers said so eloquently, we are a community of volunteers. And I love that about Simsbury. And I'm one of them. And I think that's, our volunteers is what is a community asset. And I think that when we start singling out volunteers for particular recognition, we lose some of that community effort. And I see the farms as a community project, a community asset, and something for all of us. And as I said, it really has nothing to do with Mr. Weston. As a fellow Domer, I would love to say yes, but
You might have to explain what that is.
Domer is somebody who went to the University of Notre Dame. That's but I've struggled with this decision, and as I said, I've gone around and asked everybody I know, people in the supermarket. I've gone to my exercise class at the Y and asked people. I've been really trying to get a handle on what this means to people, and that's where I am.
And I would jump on that. I've had more calls this week on this topic than any other topic in my 2+ years on the Board of Selectmen, and every single call inquiry has been, why are you naming buildings after volunteers? Why are we doing that? And again, none of the comments were directed at Mr. West. Again, great individual, but Father White, I think, said it better than I can. We're picking one. Why are we not naming this building Russ Shaw? Because he had the vision for Simsbury Farms. Quite honestly, why are we not naming it after Mary, who invested in it in many, many terms on the Board of Selectmen?
Just a clarification, it is the Russ Shaw Recreation Complex, so it
Okay.
is named after him.
All right, but why are we not,
I
you
just
know,
wanted- yeah.
why are we not naming it after you? Why are we not naming, and again, this is not necessarily what I envisioned when I passed this procedure back in August. I thought this was going to be used once or twice, maybe with a large donation for the senior center, maybe with a large donation for the PAC board, not to single out volunteers and potentially exclude other folks, because we've got thousands of people we can name a building after in this town. And while if you look at it very narrowly, well, yeah, Tom West deserves a building. But then if you look at it more broadly, well, so does just about everybody in this room in one way, shape, or form, plus all the other folks that have come before us, plus the folks that come after us. And that concerns me. So we have 4 options. We can reject, we can refer, we can accept, or we can call for additional proposals. So I think I'm struggling as Mike and Sherry have articulated as well.
Other comments? I have one. Well, I want to give somebody who hasn't a chance.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. And we did talk about this a little bit at our last meeting, and at that time, I did say, and I would like to do, I didn't think it was appropriate to ask for, obviously, tonight's meeting, because we're going to have a public hearing and discuss this, but that we do bring the policy back. I actually was absent from that meeting, so I did not have the opportunity to deliberate over that. One of my concerns is around the budget process, and if we go down this road and I guess flash forward, the policy's in place, and we've got a lot of buildings and streets and things being named after folks, the signage and the upkeep of all of that kind of stuff as well. And one thing that didn't get discussed when we were talking about Jim Gallagher was when you rename a street and you affect the homes on that street or the businesses on that street, there's also the expense to those people to reissue business cards or change their billing addresses and do all those things. So I think that there's some ancillary impacts to this that we might not have thought through, and so that's, I guess, more of a future comment to say I would request at our next meeting that we bring back the policy to look at it. As far as where we are tonight, and I brought this up, and Lisa had made some comments, I thought that, we have a policy in place, and I think we evaluate tonight's submission based on that policy, and so again, I'm struggling as well, but those are a lot of the factors. I do have to state also, I had somebody email me. It wasn't really an email that talked about support or not for it. It was simply I think I'd name it Tom West versus Thomas S. West. So it was more of a selection of the exact name. And I have had other comments, and for folks that follow the Simsbury Moms Facebook page, there's a lot of comments on there as well that were not necessarily in favor. And again, I don't think any of us can reiterate enough that this has nothing to do with the individual. It's not meant to be in any way, shape, or form political. I don't look at a party registration based on a submission of who's getting what. I don't look at a party registration based on who submitted the naming of that. It goes to me far beyond that, and I guess the fortunate part is this decision is made so difficult because we have so many wonderful volunteers that have served and will continue to serve in our community. So.
Well, with all due respect, I did ask the members to come back with the changes to the policy. We did have a public hearing, Nancy, I believe you were on the board when we had the public hearing, and you knew this was coming forward, and we did vote for this, and this is the law of the land, and we asked people to come forward and bring recommendations for naming. The reason it came up is because there was no process for naming. So we now have a process, and that is important to the town. It's important to the public. We have a public hearing process. Everyone who came tonight spoke in favor of it. I think they did so eloquently. I think that there were a couple of comments that were against it, but I said the people that spoke in favor of it were very eloquent, and I appreciate that. I think that I'm concerned that we're listening to people who aren't coming to the public hearing. If people are against this, where are they? I didn't receive one. I didn't receive one email against it. I didn't hear anyone contact us and say we should change the policy. So I would like this on the agenda again. I would like any changes to the policy. I think it's unfair to have a policy in place if you really aren't going to name anything after people, or you're going to ask for donations, or I think that we should just say it. So don't waste everybody's time and effort in coming out. Because I think a public hearing process is a very important process. People took the time to come out, and it's really disappointing to me that we're here, we're considering changing a policy, but I don't see any recommended changes. So I would suggest also that we have it on our next agenda. Lisa.
Thanks to everyone, and thanks to everyone who spoke both in favor or against. Prior to having this policy, things would just be named, and all of a sudden a sign would appear. And someone would say, wait a minute, why didn't I have noticed this? I have another suggestion. Or wait a minute, there are all these other people we should be considering. Why didn't you think about that? Or wait a minute, why didn't you refer it to Culture, Parks, and Rec? They're the experts on this. So only because we have this policy did we get comments. Prior to this, things would just be named. And afterwards, people would go, wait a minute, who did this? So the fact that we have a policy enabled people to express their points of views. This was something that was not done. We do publicize it in the paper. We do follow a process. The great thing about democracy, and especially small-town democracy, is that we open it up to public participation, but there's also an obligation there. It's not just that we open it up, but that if you feel strongly for or against it, you have an obligation to speak out. And you have an obligation to speak out and follow the process that the town voted on as your representatives. And so, I appreciate the comments. I appreciate, and certainly we can adjust the policy. And if you want to just say only if you donate money do you get a name, I'm not sure that's where I want to go. But if that's what this board votes on, that's fine. Or we could vote later, okay, we're done naming stuff, no more naming stuff after this, fine. And tonight you can vote not to name anything. There's nothing in the policy that says if somebody puts it forward, you have to vote for it. I will be voting for it, but nobody is required to vote on it. What the policy does is it gives everyone an opportunity to consider it publicly and not have it done behind closed doors. And that's what we're doing today, but I will be voting to support this because it was considered by the experts on the Simsbury Farms, which is the Simsbury Farms complex. If we were to refer it to a committee, we would have referred it to them because they're the experts to take suggestions. I would have recommended.
I totally agree with you, Lisa. And that's why I did not come back with any modifications to the policy, because I totally agree with you and Mary that it's not fair to propose a change when this is what we have to work with. And that's exactly why,
But I think you have to be fair. If you don't like this process and you don't want people to come forward and recommend, and it wasn't just two people. It went through Culture Parks, it went through Complex Committee, it went through Culture Parks and Rec, it went through the whole process. So if we're just not going to name things after people, we should just be fair and say it. So I would ask that changes to the policy come back here. I think it's very important.
Yeah.
So we'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
So it does not pass. Thank you. Next item is approving, clarification, Sassy, why you would speak against it and then vote for it?
I spoke against it, but I also spoke in favor, and I pointed out not only at this meeting, but the meeting prior, that Lisa referenced, we are voting on this with the current policy in place.
But you're against the
and
current
Just a point of order, we don't have to explain our
I
votes.
want a clarification, because I want to make sure that going forward.
That's not on the agenda, Mary. We don't have to force each other to
Doesn't
explain our
have to, I
votes.
just was
I know,
curious.
I listen, and what I've
Just
always,
curious.
and you
Thank
asked.
you for sharing, I appreciate it.
Well, I can actually, then I'll just expand on that a little bit more, because we were asked to vote on this issue, on this application with the current policy in place. Based on that, that's why I'm voting in favor of it, but my comment to review the policy further is because I do think it needs some work.
I appreciate that.
So, thank you.
The next item is to approve tax refunds. We have a total of $56,446.87. The record will show that Selectman Payne is recusing himself from the meeting. These have been reviewed, and these are recommended from the tax collector. Do we have any questions or comments?
Move to accept.
Second?
Or approve.
Any questions?
So it goes to Sherry.
I'm sorry, any questions, comments?
Amen.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next item is approval of the bike-friendly resolution and Bike Month in May. I think Diana Moody is here this evening, and welcome, and thank you for being here. We do have the resolution in place. It is a resolution endorsing Simsbury, Connecticut's pursuit of silver medal level bike-friendly community from the League of American Cyclists. I know there's a lot of hard work being done by your committee, and we want to thank you all as volunteers for doing this. We really appreciate it, and I just want to give you an opportunity to comment.
Okay, it's really very simple. The whole board is familiar with this because you will set the resolution, and it's really simple. We just need this resolution for our master bike plan. We will give to the board in April for review, and we need both resolution and the bike plan to submit with our 2014 application to the League of American Bicyclists. So it's really pretty simple.
Thanks.
So it's just something that we need for our application.
Thank you, Diana. And I think this is helpful because all the selectmen will be asked to sign it, should they choose to. And I think this will go a long way in supporting your application when you go in for the silver level. There's a lot of work, and thank you for bringing this forward. It shows that the town is a partner with our volunteers, and that's important. So thank you.
Not only the volunteers, but that the board is very supportive, which you have been, and we appreciate that very much.
Thank you. Questions for the board?
I have a question. If I understand what we're being asked to do is to approve this resolution, but have we seen the plan? I've never seen the plan, and with all due respect, I'd like to see what you're asking me to endorse.
If I could just jump in on that, we spoke, and I spoke to
Okay.
Patty Jacobus yesterday. They're not actually asking us to approve this tonight, because if you'll read the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th clause, it's actually predated with 2 X's for May, when they actually want us to approve it. So I think we're going to get the plan, because it hasn't been quite written yet. They're working hard on it.
I feel much better, thank
I
you.
mean, currently, but you know.
There's a lot of work going on with these folks. Good
Plan
stuff.
on having that finished by April for you to review,
Okay.
and then after you review it, then you can sign the resolution.
The town
you very
currently has
much.
a bike plan in our plan of conservation development. That's part of our system.
Okay.
So it's nothing new at this point.
Right, a
Just,
master bike plan is required for the application. It's part of what's called the 5 Es. And so we have to have that in order to submit with our application. And so to have that, we also need to approve it.
So does the board have any objection to moving forward on this? We'll be actually voting on it tonight, but we'll be endorsing it to move forward. So
Can I just ask one more quick question?
Sure.
Is there anything in this that has to be addressed in the budget process, or we?
The endorsement of supporting the bike-friendly community does not come with any cost. Certainly, the committee and our residents are asking for maintenance of our bike trails. They're advocating for things that will be part of our budget.
So that's
absolutely.
already coming in?
But that will be
Okay,
separate.
so it's
Yeah,
not
that's separate.
attached to this?
There's no money contribution.
Okay.
We had the walking trails in place before there was even a bike-friendly grid.
Right.
You know, so the maintenance of our trail system has always been part of our Parks and Recreation budget, and has always been part of the town's plan. This is just a formal recognition that there's a committee and that they are working with the town to promote bicycling, to support it, to advocate for maintenance of our trail system. But yes, I think you heard earlier.
We covered all our bases.
Yeah, I think you heard last meeting
Right.
that they will be advocating that our trail system be maintained at a certain level. Certainly, the town did put bike sharrows, painted those in place. So yes, there's cost to the town roads, but it's not part of the endorsement. Other
Thank you,
questions?
Diane.
Yeah.
I appreciate you bringing all this information to us. It was very helpful.
Thanks a lot.
Mike?
I have one.
Oh,
Mary?
Nancy and then Lisa.
yeah, it was just a little bit of a follow-up of both of the questions, and that is when this application goes in for silver, and I know because you showed that wheel of sort of things need to step up to certain levels, but within the application, do you have to indicate certain budgetary support, or is it just that you have the plan in place and, although phasing of it may, depend upon the budget per year, that it's not going to hurt the application or isn't required within the application? Trying to get a sense of.
Really isn't concerned with our budget per se. There are some specific questions in terms of budget. There's so many questions on the application. I really can't answer that. You've seen the application, so it's,
and then just to follow up with Diana, the league will ask what the town's commitment is, and we will reference the budgets.
They're more concerned with what we're doing as a town, as individuals, and as I mentioned before, it's all based on the 5 E's. So that's the criteria that they're looking at. So within the application, they're looking to see what we are doing to build a bicycle-friendly community. And it's really not their concern what we're spending on our budget. Their concern is really what we're doing to make a more bicycle-friendly community. So that's really what they're looking towards.
That's a good
I
explanation.
hope that helps.
Absolutely.
Okay. Any other questions? Lisa, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I want to thank you for your efforts on this, and I just want to point out that in our marketing strategy, the analysis that we did on SimsburyStrategy.com, it does reference one of the great things about Simsbury and that we should be promoting and marketing is our recreational activities that we have in town. So this is not just a designation, it's actually part of our economic development plan, it's part of our marketing plan. The Economic Development Committee has put trails as one of their top priorities in terms of what the town can do, because towns, as you know, can't make bank loans or put shovels in the ground for businesses, but they can create infrastructure that will attract the kind of businesses that we are poised to attract based on the marketing analysis that we did and that anyone can look at online. To the what?
In terms of the consulting, in terms of, and yes, and they did indicate that Simsbury has a lot of potential to be a high recreational designation. And so it's not just the bicycling, it's the kayaking, it's the walking, it's the hiking, it's all of those things. So this is really just a piece of the pie. So thank you for pointing that out, because that's absolutely true.
Any other questions? So we don't need a vote tonight, but we have a consensus that we are moving forward, and once this is in final form, we'll be ready to move forward. So thank you. Thank you for being here. Next item is approving the Town of Simsbury's Fair Housing Resolution and Policies. We are working on the 2014 Small Cities Grant, and in recognition of April as Fair Housing Month, we are updating a lot of our resolutions. I want to thank Tom Cook for bringing this forward. We have the Fair Housing Resolution, the Fair Housing Policy Statement, the Title VI Equal Opportunity Statement, Affirmative Action Policy Statement, and the ADA Notice and Grievance Procedure. These are in full compliance of what the state and the federal government wanted to see us adopt, and really needs to be in place prior to our filing of our Simsbury Housing Authority Small Cities Grant. So with that, Tom, I didn't know if you wanted to add any further information.
I think you summarized in the first page that all of these policies are covered by this requirement. They were adopted back last week in 2011. But as Mary pointed out, as part of our application with the Housing Authority, we have to renew them.
think there may be some minor changes to them, but on the whole, we're pretty much, there's nothing all that substantive that I have for your attention.
Any questions? Do you need to adopt it individually, or can we move them all?
I think you can move them all.
One motion?
If you just, as set forth in the submission, I think you can just do them all at once.
Do they need to do that?
I wouldn't do that to you.
Get you some of them glasses.
That case,
I move that we approve the updates to the Fair Housing Resolution, Fair Housing Policy Statement, Title VI Equal Opportunity Statement, Affirmative Action Policy Statement, ADA Notice and Grievance Procedures.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Mike beat you to it. Any questions, comments, concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Next item is to approve the small cities application action. The town will be working with the Housing Authority, and I want to recognize Ed LaMontagne, who's here from the Housing Authority. Welcome, Ed. There's an intent to apply for the grant. We need to set a public hearing for March 10th at 6:30 PM at Town Hall. That's required in the application. I thought I would just ask Ed to briefly summarize what the Housing Authority is looking to do, what kinds of improvements that you'd like to do with the funds should they be awarded to you.
Two major projects, infrastructure projects for the complex. And both of these have been identified on a CHFA site analysis that was completed this past year. And one of those is to put a new roof on the Virginia County residence, which is now 3 years past its useful life. The other piece would be to pave the entire roadway, adding ADA curb cuts, which are currently non-existent, the restriping of all of the fire lanes and handicap parking spaces, directional markings coming into the property, as well as to do the sidewalks, because we have been receiving quite a few applications of residents at Murphy to be 62 and or disabled. And we've been getting a lot of applications for disabled individuals who are wheelchair users or have ambulatory issues. However, the sidewalks do not meet the grade of the thresholds. And unfortunately, when we have somebody that needs or has a wheelchair or some other type of device for ambulation, our maintenance staff has to build ramps, which are done on plywood and probably not up to the ADA standards. So we'd like to bring the complex, which was built in the 70s prior to ADA, but nonetheless up to ADA standards, as well as doing curb cuts and paving the road.
Thank you, Ed. So this will go a long way in improving Virginia Connolly and Owen Murphy apartments.
And it would, if I may. I'd like to thank Tom, both publicly and personally. It's a lot of work to put this together.
It's a lot of work.
And that's why I'm sitting on this side of the room. And but he's doing a great job with this, and I really appreciate it. And also yourself for everything you've done.
Well, it's a lot of work, and thanks to you for coming forward. And we hope that you get as close to $800,000 that you're eligible for as possible. So, we'll work hard to try to get this done. And thank you, and thank you, Tom, for all your hard work on this. Questions?
Quick question. I think we have a budget hearing that night as one of our fallback budget nights. So, I think this probably takes.
Yes, we
that'll
do.
be a
Yeah, we
backup one.
could do this. We'll set the public hearing, and we could do this before or in the middle. We'll
Okay.
work around the hearing.
All right, just because we got to budget this and then Board of Selectmen that night. So.
Yeah.
We do.
Okay, I'm sure we can
Yeah.
pull it
Well,
off.
thank
Action-packed
you.
night.
But we do need to set the public hearing. We
Yeah.
need to move it forward,
I'm fine
and
with
we'll
that.
work around. We'll work around this.
Okay.
This will take precedence.
Yeah, I would think so,
In
yeah.
terms of public hearing, and then we'll work for special meetings before and after.
Okay.
if we need to. But thank you for pointing that out.
So do
Other
you want two
questions?
separate actions here? Is that?
I'll ask Tom, how would you like this moved?
Why don't we do two motions, one to authorize submission of an intent to apply, and the second to set a public hearing on the proposed application for the March 10th.
We have a motion for setting the public hearing.
I'll second that.
Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
We need a motion to authorize the first selectman to execute and submit an intent to apply.
I'll make that motion.
Second. Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are approved. Thank you very much. Good luck. and hope you get all your money. Next item is approving the Rotary Club of Simsbury Granby for River Run Charitable Race for Sunday, April 27th. This is always a wonderful event, and they do a great job working with the town to go through Jerry Toner and public gathering permits, and we'd ask for an approval of this annual event.
Just a quick question on that. This is our first event with the PAC board out on its own. We're just approving the usage of the which part? Just the town parking lots, the roads, the Performing Arts Center?
The town event on the roads, and
Okay.
then they'll go through the public gathering permit process.
And then the PAC board will
So-
take care of their
yes.
facility, or their rented
Yes.
facility?
The public gathering permit process is still required.
Yep.
And that will still run through the town.
Okay.
This will be on town land, so we have to approve it.
Yeah, I understood. I'll make that motion to approve this.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next item is approval of a grant. This is only a $1,500 grant for the Connecticut at Work program, but the idea is grant. It's for an innovators workshop. Lisa Kareem will be back before the Board of Selectmen explaining the innovation Technology Innovation Committee that they're working on. The idea is that Simsbury Library will not only be a place that you can take books out, but you can also be a place that has space to create. And the library board and this small core committee, I want to thank Lisa and Nancy for attending a lot of those meetings, working with the library board and the Simsbury Historic Society. They have ideas to get grants to do 3D printing, carpentry workshops, and to really make the library a really innovative space. So this will be just a small grant opportunity to get us moving forward on that. So we need the board's authorization.
I'll move that.
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item is to appoint the Economic Development Task Force. I want to thank Nancy and Lisa for working on the members. I believe we had a good response, and you have some recommendations for the appointments tonight.
If I could just comment and summarize and thank Lisa and thank Hiram. We did have over 25 folks who submitted names, and it made our job difficult, but we did get through it. And what we ended up with is a committee that will be made up of 12 residents, and Diane Nash is here, and she's one of those folks that will be part of this if you guys all approve this. But I just wanted to speak to the kind of skill sets and folks what's kind of being brought to the table, and that is we have land use planners and economic analysis folks. We have high-tech entrepreneurs. We have a family-owned business that is involved with engineering and construction. We have marketing, media buyers.
Real estate.
We have environmental compliance folks. We've run the gamut of skill sets that are going to be folks that will be involved in this committee. So I'm very excited about it. We're very excited about it. And so what's being in front of you tonight is the approval of those names. We did have the boards and commissions, you can see, are TBD. We had a couple folks submit, but we just wanted to give one last chance to make sure there wasn't anyone else on the boards or commissions that wanted to submit their names to its kind of a compilation of Hiram's comments, and we added a Board of Finance member in. And we actually did cut back to just have one person for each of those boards, and I think it'll give some nice voice to those 12 folks that are participating. So.
And I think, Nancy, just one clarification, we did leave it to those boards to decide who they were
Exactly,
going to appoint.
exactly, yeah. So
We
when
weren't
we
going to
have
pick for them.
Right,
They can
right.
pick themselves.
So when we have those names, we'll just, I don't know if we're required to bring that back, or it's just enough that we're appointing a liaison, they decide who that is.
Yeah, I'm open on that.
Yeah.
I think it would
yeah.
be important for the board to have it back so that we have a clear designation of who is considered members and who aren't.
Okay.
So it's just a formality. Once we get the name submitted, we'll
And I
just
think
put
they'll
it back.
then have to re-sign an ethics thing.
Yeah, so you do, if you are going
For
to appoint them
conflict.
officially, it does need to come back here.
Okay.
So once those names are put forward, we can get those back here.
Okay, so we can approve who's on
Yes.
here tonight,
Yes.
and then the others can.
Yeah.
Perfect.
We have a motion to approve?
I'll move that.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary,
Next,
can I
yes,
just say thank you to those who applied who we weren't able, and that we will certainly welcome them. I think there will be opportunities to do other projects, and we hope that you'll be willing to participate. We could have offered it to everyone, because everyone was so qualified, and we were so blessed to see.
Yeah.
So I want to thank everyone, and I appreciate your willingness to participate in local government. That's what this is all about.
We did have two Hiram, we moved immediately to notify the folks that were involved, but we also sent out a reply back to everyone that did, and just thanked them for their submission and asked them to continue to remain engaged.
Thank you.
So, thanks.
Aquarian rate increase opposition letter update. I believe you have also executive session. Do you want to update the board at that time?
Just the short form, we did submit a letter at the direction of the Board of Selectmen with support from the town manager of Granby and the first selectman of East Granby, our state senator and our state representative, and also our fire district, to Pura, once again raising the fact that their decision, which was characterized as an 8.6% rate hike for residents, was in fact a 17.2% hike for residents in the towns that I just named. The letter pointed out the inequity of first of all, the 8.6 is an underlying increase at a time when people are still having a very tough time economically, and furthermore pointed out that 17.2% increase is just unconscionable. None of the towns or organizations represented in that letter would ever dream of doing an increase of that size. And it asked the commission to reconsider the request of the Attorney General that if there were to be an increase of that nature, it ought to be phased in. Well, we've since received a letter back from Pura, which essentially said that the 17.2% increase was justified as part of their equalization policy. We'll have further discussion with Town Council, who's here tonight in the executive session, to see whether and what kind of response we might be able to give to that. So that's the summary.
I just want to add one thing. The letter does reference, which is sort of interesting, once again, the rate equalization is being phased in and is not being accomplished all at once. Of course, we haven't been told that. So that was positive. That's the first time we've seen that.
That means there's more coming. That doesn't mean they're cutting this back.
But they did not, in their letter, detail what that phase-in is. We haven't seen that from Aquarian that I'm aware of. Is that correct? That's correct. So we'll be, I'm sure, looking forward to hearing about that.
Okay, so we'll move the discussion we'll save the discussion for executive session. Thank you for that report. The acceptance of the minutes. Can I have approval of the January 27th meeting minutes?
Move to accept.
Second.
Do I have any corrections, changes, comments? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any selecting liaison reports? Lisa?
First of all, I wanted to let folks know I attended the Board of Ed meeting last night, and Superintendent Matt Curtis presented his budget to the Board of Education last night. He is recommending they come in at a 1.48% increase. He outlined cuts to staff and equipment that would need to occur to reduce that to 1% per the Board of Finance request. And you can review that presentation online at simsbury.k12.ctus. And it is worth taking a look at that, because that is 73% of your taxes go to this budget. Thanks to the students and staff who made Les Mis such tremendous success. I don't know if anyone had an opportunity to see it, but it was phenomenal. The talent was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And we had over 50 senior citizens use their VIP passes to attend for free. I want to thank the town and Board of Ed for partnering together in the senior outreach program. I wanted to remind folks that our senior citizen basketball night is coming up on February 24th at 5:30, and seniors can sign up at the Senior Center. I have a library update. I'm really excited about that. It's my first. Thanks to the Library Committee and David Blumey for his work on the innovation programming. I wanted to announce that tomorrow, Thursday, I'm not sure that this is going to happen, February 13th, weather permitting, there's a Library Innovations Workshop at 7 in Program Room 2. All are welcome to attend. The Innovation Committee, comprised of members from as Mary mentioned, the library, the town, the Historical Society, and Main Street, is hosting a public meeting for Wednesday, February 19th from 3 to 4 in the main meeting room at Town Hall to seek suggestions about possible projects to be done over the next 2 years dealing with innovation within the town. And this is really important. The Best of Hartford magazine 2014 are taking ballots for the best library. Please join us in voting for Simsbury. Ballots can be found in the January, February, and March issues of the Hartford Magazine or through the Simsbury Library website. I wanted to thank Kevin Kowalski and Patrick Torville of the Fire Department and the Chamber of Commerce for hosting an informational meeting for the business community Tuesday on fire inspections, what should I expect, and emergency management, what should I be doing. If you missed it and want to pick up handouts, you can stop by the fire department. They did a wonderful job, and we appreciate the efforts putting that together. And finally, I just wanted to make mention that Mary, Representative Hampton, and I attended the Yukon Water Conference earlier, a few weeks ago now, and that was very informative. They brought together many panelists to discuss the issues concerning water, which obviously is a great concern. This stemmed from the MDC proposal to divert the Farmington River, and now they're taking a statewide look at our water policy, and we see how important that is given what's happening in the West. We're fortunate to have a lot of water, but we do need to manage it. It's a precious resource, and it's really taking a new look at that and how we can do that better. And I think that's all I got.
Thank you very much. Any other reports?
I just have two quick ones. Just a reminder that Friday is Valentine's Day, and we passed the waiver. So as liaison of the tourism committee, they wanted me to remind everybody that get in here and get hitched.
Go get married.
So, and then obviously support our businesses. And if the board will indulge me, this is not a liaison report, and I'm a sucker for animals. There's a lost Beagle Basset up in Terriffill. It's been 2 weeks now that Ben's been wandering around. They hired some trackers, so anybody in the Terry's Plain, Terriffill area, folks that are listening, help bring that dog home, because it breaks my heart that somebody lost their dog. So thank you for indulging me.
Appreciate it.
Can I just do one quick thing? I'm sorry Representative Hampton isn't here anymore, because I wanted to thank him for his leadership on the Family Hearing Day for the Department of Developmental Disabilities, which was held at the Capitol this week. And I had the opportunity to attend, and it was overwhelmingly attended, by so much so they had to open a separate hearing room. They went to overflow. And I think we have started, a good conversation about resources for those with intellectual disabilities, and I wanted to thank him for his leadership on that.
I will appreciate it. All right, I think we're going to adjourn to executive session. I will let the record reflect that I will not be part of that discussion since it involves the Aquarian, and ask for a motion to go into executive session.
Move that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Can we go in your office?
Yeah.